The Elephant Man by Tim Vickery. Chapter 1. The Creature in the Shop. My name is Dr. Frederick Treves. I am a doctor at the London hospital. One day, in 1884, I saw a picture in the window of a shop near the hospital. I stopped in front of the shop and looked at the picture. At first, I felt interested. Then I felt angry. Then afraid. It was a horrible, ugly picture. There was a man in the picture, but he did not look like you and me. He did not look like a man. He looked like an elephant. I read the writing under the picture. It said, "Come in and see the Elephant Man, 2 pence." I opened the door and went in. There was a man in the shop. He was a dirty man in an old coat with a cigarette in his mouth. "What do you want?" he asked. "I'd like to see the Elephant Man, please," I said. The man looked at me angrily. "Well, you can't," he said. "The shop's closing now. You can come back tomorrow." "I'm sorry," I said, "but I would like to see him now. I have no time tomorrow. I have a lot of work to do. But I can give you more than 2 pence. The man looked at me carefully. Then he took the cigarette out of his mouth and smiled with his yellow teeth. "All right, sir," he said. "Give me 12 pence, then." I gave him the money, and he opened a door at the back of the shop. We went into a little room. The room was cold and dark, and there was a horrible smell in it. A creature sat on a chair behind a table. I say a creature, because it was not a man or a woman, like you or me. The creature did not move or look at us. It sat very quietly on the chair, in the cold, dark, dirty room, and looked at the table. The creature had a cloth over its head, because of the cold. On the table in front of it, there was a dead flower. "Stand up," said the shopkeeper loudly. The creature stood up slowly. It took the old cloth off its head and put it on the chair. I looked at the creature and felt sad. I am a doctor, so I know a lot about accidents and ill people. I see horrible, ugly things every day. But this creature, this thing, was the worst of all. There were no men or women in the hospital like him. He wore some old trousers, but no shirt, coat, or shoes, so I could see his body very well. His head was the most interesting thing. It was very, very big, like an enormous bag with a lot of books in it. The head did not have much hair, and there was another bag of brown, dirty skin at the back of it. This skin came down below his neck. I could not see one of his eyes very well, because a lot of skin came down in front of his face, too. An enormous red tooth came out of his mouth, under his nose. It looked like an elephant's tooth. The mouth and nose were like holes in the face. The face could not smile or laugh or look angry or sad, because the skin could not move. It was dead, like an elephant's face. There were more bags of dirty skin on the front and back of the creature's body. These bags came down to his legs. The right arm was enormous, and there were bags of skin on it, too. The right hand was like a man's foot. But the left hand, the left arm and the left hand were beautiful. The left arm had wonderful skin, and the fingers of the left hand were long and beautiful. It was like a young woman's hand. "Walk, Merrick," said the shopkeeper angrily. "Come on, quickly, move." He hit the creature with his hand. Slowly the creature walked across the room. But he could not walk well. His legs were very big and fat, and he had a bad back. He could not walk far without a stick. "All right, thank you," I said. "Let him sit down. I don't want to see any more." I felt ill, and the smell in the room was very bad. "Yes, sir," said the shopkeeper. "Sit down, Merrick." We went out of the room and closed the door. The shopkeeper smiled at me with his yellow teeth. "Wonderful, sir, isn't it?" he said. "The best elephant man in England. Hundreds of people come to see him, you know. Hundreds. I take him all over the country, I do." "Yes, very interesting," I said. "Can I sit down?" "Yes, sir, of course. Here's a chair." He looked at me, smiling. "Would you like a glass of water, sir?" "Yes, please," I said. Then I looked at the things in the dirty shop. There were 2 or 3 bad apples, and some old black bananas. That was all. No. No, thank you. I'm all right," I said. Did you call the creature Merrick?" "That's right, sir. Joseph Merrick. The best elephant man in England. I take him all over the country, you know. Lots of people want to see him." "Yes, I see. Do you get a lot of money?" "Well, sometimes we do, sir, yes. But it's difficult, you see, sir, because of the police. The police don't like us, you see, sir. So we can't stay in a town very long. We usually move every week." "Yes, I see. Well, anyway, Mr.
Silcock, sir. Simon Silcock."
Yes, well, Mr. Silcock, I'm a doctor at the London hospital. My name is Dr. Treves. I think this man, Joseph Merrick, is very interesting, and I would like to see him at the hospital. I want to look at him more carefully, you see."
"Yes, sir. I see. But how can he get to the hospital? It's going to be difficult."
"Why, man? The hospital's not far from here."
"Well, yes, sir. I know. But you see, Merrick can't walk very well. He needs help."
"You can come with him. Do you want more money? Is that it?"
"Well, yes, sir, I do. But you see, people are afraid of him, too. In the road, little boys always run after him and hit him. Then the police get angry, because people are afraid. Sometimes they take us to prison."
"I see," I said. "Well, how can he come to the hospital, then?"
"Bring a cab, sir," said Silcock. "You can take him to the hospital in a cab."
Chapter 2. The Card. So next day, at 7 o'clock, I came to the shop in a cab. There were not very many people in the road, because it was early in the morning. In November, it is dark at 7 o'clock in the morning. and I could not see the shop very well. I waited 5 minutes. A postman walked past. Then the door of the shop opened, and the creature, Merrick, came out. I could not see his face or his body. He had an enormous black hat on his head, like a big box. A grey cloth came down from the hat in front of his face. There was a hole in the cloth in front of his eyes. He could see out of the hole, but I could not see in. He wore a long black coat, too. The coat began at his neck and ended at his feet, so I could not see his arms, his body, or his legs. On his feet he wore big shoes like old bags. He had a stick in his left hand, and he walked very slowly. I opened the door of the cab and got out. "Good morning, Mr. Merrick," I said. "Can you get in?"
"Help my upper steps," he said.
I'm sorry," I said. "I don't understand." For a minute, he stood by the door of the cab and said nothing. Then he hit the cab with his stick.
"Steps," he said loudly. "Help me up the steps."
Then I understood. There were 3 steps up into the cab, and he could not get up them. "Yes, I see. I'm sorry," I said. "Let me help you." I took his left hand and began to help him. My right hand was behind his back. I felt very strange. His left hand was like a young woman's, but his back, under the coat, was horrible. I could feel the bags of old skin on his back under the coat. He put one enormous foot on the first step, and then he stopped. After a minute, he moved his second foot slowly. Then he stopped and waited again. "Hello, sir. Can I help you?" I looked behind me. It was the postman, and behind him I could see 3 young boys. One of the boys laughed. The postman smiled. "Is the gentleman ill?" he asked. I thought quickly. "Yes, but this is a lady, not a gentleman. I'm a doctor, and she's ill. Take her hand so I can help her better." The postman took Merrick's left hand, and I helped him with 2 hands from behind. Slowly, very slowly, Merrick went up the steps and into the cab. One boy was very near the cab. He called to his friends. "Come and see this, boys! A fat lady in a black coat! And look at that enormous hat!" The boys laughed. They were very near the cab too now. I closed the door quickly. "Thank you," I said to the postman. "That's all right, sir," he said. "She's a strange lady, sir, isn't she?" "She's ill, that's all," I said quickly. "We're going to the hospital. Goodbye, and thank you." The cab drove down the road to the hospital. I looked at Merrick. "That was difficult, wasn't it?" I said. At first he said nothing, but then he spoke. His voice was very strange, but I listened to him carefully, and I could understand him.
"The steps were very difficult," he said. "But most things are difficult for me."
"Yes," I said. "Nothing is easy for you, is it?"
"No," he said.
He was very quiet for a minute. Then he said,
"Who are you, sir?"
"Who am I? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Dr. Treves. Here, this is my card. I gave him a card with my name on. Then I thought, that was no good. This man can't read. But Merrick took the card and looked at it very carefully. Then he put it in his trousers pocket. I did not talk to him very much at the hospital. I looked at his head and arms and legs and body very carefully. Then I wrote the important things about him in a little book. A nurse helped me. Merrick looked at her sometimes, but she did not smile at him or talk to him. I think she was afraid of him. I think Merrick was afraid too, because he was very quiet. At 4 o'clock, I took him back to the shop in a cab. The next day, I looked in the shop window again, but the picture was not there. Chapter 3. A Letter to the Times. I did not see Merrick again for 2 years. Then, one day, the police found him. He had my card in his hand, so they brought him to the London hospital. He was very tired, hungry, and dirty, so I put him to bed in a quiet little room. But he could not stay at the hospital. He was not ill, and of course the beds in the hospital are for ill people. We have no beds for hungry people or ugly people. I told the hospital chairman, Mr. Carr Gom, about Merrick. He listened carefully. And then he wrote a letter to the editor of the Times newspaper. From the Times, December the 4th, 1886. A letter to the editor. Dear Sir, I am writing to you about a man in our hospital. He needs your help. His name is Joseph Merrick, and he is 27 years old. He is not ill, but he cannot go out of the hospital because he is very, very ugly. Nobody likes to look at him, and some people are afraid of him. We call him the Elephant Man. 2 years ago, Merrick lived in a shop near the London hospital. For 2 pence, people could see him and laugh at him. One day, Dr. Frederick Treves, a hospital doctor, saw Merrick, brought him to this hospital, and looked at him carefully. Dr. Treves could not help Merrick, but he gave him his card. Then the shopkeeper, Silcock, took Merrick to Belgium. A lot of people in Belgium wanted to see him, and so after a year, Merrick had £50. But then Silcock took Merrick's £50, left Merrick in Belgium, and went back to London. Merrick came back to London by himself. Everyone on the train and the ship looked at him and laughed at him. In London, the police put him in prison. But then they saw Dr. Treves's card and brought Merrick to the London hospital. This man has no money, and he cannot work. His face and body are very, very ugly, so of course many people are afraid of him. But he is a very interesting man. He can read and write, and he thinks a lot.
He is a good, quiet man. Sometimes he makes things with his hands and gives them to the nurses because they are kind to him. He remembers his mother, and he has a picture of her. She was beautiful and kind, he says. But he never sees her now. She gave him to Silcock a long time ago. Can the readers of the Times help us? This man is not ill, but he needs a home. We can give him a room at the hospital, but we need some money. Please write to me at the London Hospital. Yours faithfully, F.C. Cargom, Chairman of the London Hospital. The readers of the Times are very kind people. They gave us a lot of money. After 1 week, we had £50,000, so Merrick could live in the hospital for all his life. We could give him a home.